Hello guys, how's it going? If you're watching this video, you probably like DayZ content. And you might have watched some popular DayZ content creators in the past. You probably appreciate how good those players are. However, more than their impeccable PvP skills, it's often the encounters, the people they meet, and the stories that grab your attention.
Let's build spears.
Soldiers, arm up! Arm up!
Get ready!
Arm up, soldiers.
Unfortunately, these tales typically end with the demise of the newly met character. Today we are going to tie this video to the previous one on my channel, about permadeath. If you haven't watched it yet, please do, it's blowing up and I'm genuinely thankful for that. So in today's video, we're going to talk about guilt in DayZ. In the previous video, we delved into the significance of DayZ permadeath as an essential element of the game. It adds excitement to every event, whether it's finding a can of food, a basic gun, a piece of clothing, or any other sought after item, including meds to help your character survive in the relentless world of DayZ. While going through the comments of the previous video, and there was quite a few, I observed that some comments highlighted players' hunting and interactions as the most engaging moments for the players. In games like Call of Duty or Counter-Strike, death or killing another player often results in a quick respawn, with no real consequences other than a wasted couple of seconds. Killing another player is typically accompanied by a positive feeling. However, when we are getting killed, it's often an internet connection problem. Anyway, killing is implemented in the mechanism that drives the game forward. However, as we discussed in a previous video, DayZ is different. In DayZ, when you die, you lose everything: your gear, hours of gameplay, and confidence in your decisions. So it raises a question: is the player hunting or interaction in DayZ interesting because it's a part of the game, or because both players have so much to lose? How many times in DayZ have you spawned, venture into the closest town, perhaps pick up a can of food or a basic melee weapon, only to suddenly spot a fresh spawn running towards you? Maybe you engage in a fight, or perhaps they did something similar to you. Then the question arises, why would they do that? Wouldn't it be easier to go their own way and continue searching for goods in Chernarush? But maybe, just maybe, you pondered, and the same thoughts cross your enemy's mind, that it is an early game. No much has happened yet, and this type of hostility could provide an advantage in early stages by securing an extra can of food or additional ammunition for the gun in your inventory.
That was in a dead zombie, dude. I think he was trapped inside of the game.
How can we help him then?
I think we gotta set him free, man. Killing him.
Like murder him? Oh god. What is on your hand? Dude, did you just jab me? Dude, I'm going to have a heart attack, dude.
However, as the game progresses and players acquire mid-tier weapons and items, for example, clothing with 20 to 30 slots, a basic backpack, a pistol, losing these becomes a significant setback for your ongoing adventure. Therefore, when you encounter another player at this stage, you might be more inclined to avoid interaction completely or engage in a conversation, attempting to defuse the situation and avoid the detrimental outcomes of losing everything.
No! Why? Why would you kill me?
One of the study on morality in video games was conducted among German FPS players by Klimet and colleagues in 2006. The study demonstrated that although players engaged in a moral management process, they do not find themselves overly concerned about their moral decisions. This lack of concern is attributed to the players dissociating themselves from the virtual reality, making it easy for them to differentiate between the game world and the real world. In another study, Bernard Suits argues that acts of violence in games are part of emotion transfer effect, as described in the previous video, which is crucial for generating a positive experience for the players. This perspective supports the observation that moral engagement in typical FPS games is often absent, as the act of killing another player contributes to positive emotions. However, Nguyen and Zagal expanded on this in 2016, addressing in-game actions such as ganking, killing a weaker player with no in-game benefit, or spawn camping, providing positional advantage for the players over those who just entered the play zone. They argue that these game behaviors are inherently flawed and lead to an unbalanced experience for the other players.
Can you? Whoa, whoa, whoa! Hey, he's watching me. Dude, you're not going to punch me, are you?
In a study conducted by Carter and Allison in 2019, they randomly selected 250 written responses to a survey question they asked, which was, "Do you ever feel bad killing another player in DayZ?" The responses varied, with some players expressing feeling only a bit bad, while others mentioning feeling extremely bad or horrible. In one extreme case, a player described several nights of disturbed sleep accompanied by severe guilt that lasted for almost a year. The player explained, "In one accident, I killed a teammate in a crossfire." Many players attempt to justify the killing of another player by contextualizing the situation under which the action occurred. However, very rarely did they describe the consequences for the player who's just been killed. Sometimes they only express the regret for the player and acknowledge the loss of accumulated gear. As one player mentioned, "I would usually think about how much time it took them to find and scavenge the items they used to have, at least before I ended them." Very often, when the feeling of guilt is mentioned by DayZ players, it's usually associated with unprovoked attacks. Interestingly, players express more remorse about killing players around the spawn area than those deeper in the map. This raises an intriguing point, since the deeper areas of the map include military bases and airports, where armed players are ready to engage in combat, while starting areas typically have players who just started the game and may lack means to defend themselves. At least usually. Interestingly, when it comes to killing fresh players, social norms seem to play a role. Many respondents stated that they never felt guilty about killing a player whom they saw kill a freshly spawned player. On the other hand, these acts can follow the path of moral justification, with players being quick to justify killing another player if that player was responsible for killing someone else. In those cases, players said, "If I kill a player who is killing other players, then I feel extremely satisfied." Or, "Sometimes I kill less geared players because I saw them harming other player." Players often distance themselves from the act of killing by using euphemic labeling, employing terms such as opening fire or serving justice to describe what is essentially a lethal action. One player says, "I feel bad each time and every time, even if they are bad spawns, asking to be put down." Another player says, "Cruel people in DayZ deserve to die, and when they do, justice is being served." Also, players tend to use terms such as "he was killed" rather than "I killed him" to distance themselves from the action. Players also express regret over lost opportunity for friendly social interactions. One player mentions feeling kind of bad after killing another player because they got scared, spooked, or was crept up upon. The player then wondered if perhaps, had they engaged in conversation before shooting, they might have become friends. Another instance where players felt remorse about killing was when the victim posed no threats.
Any last words?
Man, the one.
The one.
Frequently, this assessment was based on a weapon that the victim was carrying. An example of player feeling regret was when they decided to kill a player holding a gun, only to realize, after inspecting the body, that there was no ammunition. In summary, instances of unprovoked killing by players often let them wonder if the interaction could have taken a different turn had they chose not to kill.
Watch out, zombie!
Some players mention experiencing a feeling of guilt due to them being unfair. Example of this includes instances where players lied to and betrayed others with whom they teamed up. One player shares, "I was a bit of a bandit when I first started playing. I tricked a few people before killing them and did shitty stuff like that. I feel bad for those ones." However, labeling players as bandits and other typical negative terms in DayZ is often used to explain and defend the reason for killing someone. This act of dehumanization of other players is employed repeatedly as a means of justification. Furthermore, the attribute of blame is also one of the most common reasons for killing other players. Players frequently explain, "I've only killed to defend myself after being shot at or attacked first," or that they only kill in self-defense. Thus, the use of self-defense as an explanation can be a common practice in DayZ for moral management because self-defense already implies PvP concept, which is a pivotal aspect of DayZ. Or factors such as not using proximity chat or being unable to contact a player because they are snipers sitting at the distance. Some players attribute their willingness to kill others to the game's mechanisms, particularly the concept of permadeath. One player expresses, "Yes, I do feel bad, but the simple risk of them turning on me, even if they are less equipped than I am, is too large to not do anything about it. By doing something about it, I mean killing the other guy, even if you handcuffed him, and he's been super cooperative and nice guy. You might even like him, but he still needs to die." Nonetheless, attributing game-specific moral disengagement to DayZ is challenging. This difficulty arises because violence, while a prevalent aspect of DayZ, is not inherently tied to the core narrative or motivation of the game. DayZ lacks a specific narrative that compels players to kill each other. The primary objective is to survive, which can be achieved with or without interaction with other players. One player asked about feeling guilt due to killing other players says, "Never. Why would I? It's a game, and death is a part of it. I don't kill. If it's avoidable, I will kill if I must." The absence of predefined themes or specific goals and terms in DayZ places the responsibility on the players to make their own choices regarding whom to kill and whom not to, thereby introducing moral choices into the game. Coupled with the permadeath mechanism, this dynamic can evoke a strong sense of guilt in the player. This is well illustrated by the player responses and the wide array of moral management practices employed by the player to alleviate their moral concerns about potentially violating a moral code of DayZ. The lack of guidance on the right and wrong ways to play DayZ allows players to craft their own experience. For a friendly player, it might present an opportunity for engaging in the social interaction, while for the hostile player, it might involve putting a bullet into the back of their opponents. This video has not been created to judge the right or wrong ways of playing DayZ. It purposes to delve into the complexity of the game and explore another mechanism that has emerged as a juxtaposition to the survival and permadeath mechanisms of DayZ. This is the moral decisions and the potential sense of guilt following the act of killing another fellow DayZ player. So the next time you play DayZ, take a moment to consider what the other person might feel when you shoot them. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope to see you in the next Bio News.